Okay, guys, part three of my Dear Evan Hansen review. Um, I really hope to have this finished by now when I first set out on this venture, but life is something that has to happen, and I do have to work, and there are other things I want to do plenty of video games, plenty of movies, and friends, and all that. Um, but I actually am enjoying doing this a lot more than I thought I would, being that this is something I really didn't want to talk about leading up to the release of the movie. Um, so the longer this goes on, honestly, the better it is. This is super cathartic for me, and I assume, while painful for me as I go on and get into the deep stuff, which I've already gotten into some, but not a whole lot. This is going to be painful, but honestly pretty cathartic for me, and I really hope that my friends on Facebook actually see these posts and actually watch them. If you don't watch the whole thing, I get it. They are kind of long, but at least check it out if you're interested. Yeah, I don't want to rant for too long on nothing. So I'm just going to try and get right into it. So, part two, I discussed Evan going to the Murphy's house initially with the plan to tell them that it's a huge misunderstanding and him and Connor weren't friends. And he's kind of pressured by himself into it to give in because he doesn't want to hurt the Murphys. He thinks he's giving them something hopeful, and in a way, he does. Again, that song for Forever is a beautiful song, but it just sucks with the context that it's all a lie. Um, and he gives into the lie. He recruits his quoted family friend, who's the biggest piece of shit in the whole movie, Jared, who I hate Evan, but goddamn, I hate Jared. Jared can go to hell. Um, but then comes the song that I ranted about for about 15 minutes, is what it felt like. Probably was. I haven't watched the review. I don't plan on watching these after I upload them. But I ranted for a while because that is the one song in the show that I absolutely do despise. Um, and I left off at the very end. The Murphys get the emails that Connor supposedly wrote to Evan, and Evan wrote to Connor. And Mrs. Murphy's happy to have something that she thinks is from her son. And uh, Mr. Murphy is, doing it in his own way. He just kind of to it. And Zoe is super apprehensive and really doesn't like all the attention that Connor's getting for reasons. She points out a few examples of Connor banging on her door one time, threatening to kill her, and how he was a bad person to have at home, and they were kind of thankful when he wasn't around. Um, so I mentioned the next song is Requiem, which is a good song. It actually is a good song, even, you know, in context. Um, it's a trio. All three of the Murphys have parts. Um, the singing was good in this song, and I was actually kind of worried because, again, Caitlin Deaver, I was kind of worried about her singing. I was worried it was going to be like Emma Watson auto tune with Beauty and the Beast, and she's actually really good. So I was really happy with that because, as I keep pointing out, I've been gushing about her because I think she's great. But Requiem is where I started to tear up a bit, specifically with Zoe. Um, Mrs. Murphy sees the letters as the emails as a way that Connor is still there, and she's hopeful, and so she will sing no requiem because she feels like she has him. Mr. Murphy feels betrayed. He feels upset. He can't believe it's happened, and in a way, he feels Connor is selfish for doing what he did, and that's why he will sing no requiem. I'm being cringy, but whatever. That's the lyrics. And Zoe is just remembering all the bad times with Connor. She knows they were good friends when they were kids, but as they got older, he became, as she calls him in the song, a monster. And it's a really heartbreaking song because you see how these three characters, these three family members, are processing the death of their loved one, and it just kind of hurts because it's just like, it doesn't even have to be suicide, but just losing a family member. It's just like, you if you've lost a close family member, or even not, if you've lost someone near and dear to you, you can relate to it. I sure as hell did. Um, and again, Caitlin Dever just really sold this song for me. Something they added in the movie is during her little part towards the end of the song, um, while she sings it, she's driving down a road, and as she's singing it, she starts to speed up. And I mean, she's flooring it, so you get what she's doing. And she's just kind of having this breakdown through her singing. And as she hits the end of her verse, she slams the brake and stops. And you can tell what she was doing. And it hurts. Even if it wasn't Caitlin Dever, if it was someone else, it would have hurt me. Because I get it. But it's a good song. I like the way they did it. Amy Adams is a good singer, so the little bit she does get to sing in the show was good. The actor for Mr. Murphy is really slipping my mind right now. I know someone's gonna want to kick my ass over that, but um, he's very stoic and everything, and I feel like that was intentional, but it really comes across as sucky to me. But that's just me. But I still got his feelings, and I think it did kind of fit with what he's singing and what his words, what the meaning behind them. So, whatever. I have no real complaints about this song. I thought it was done well, other than my normal nitpicky filmmaking. I think this was a bad movie filmmaking wise with all the aspects, but I already went into that, so I'm not going into that again. Um, so you see the Murphys processing Connor's death in their own ways, and as the show goes on, you will see how it is really affecting them. So it's not just this song. And you've still got Zoe, who's really apprehensive. And again, I feel for her the most. But next we go back to Evan, because, of course, because he's the main character. Um, and he's starting to blend in well with the lie. He's starting to embrace it more so. Again, that's not too far. We're not there yet, but we will be there pretty soon. And correct me if I'm wrong, friends of you who know the show and have read the novel. I'm remembering that Evan is the one that comes up with the idea for the Connor Project, which, for those of you who don't know, is a donation fund to rebuild the orchard that Connor and Evan supposedly went to, where Evan broke his arm, the lie he made up in For Forever. And if I remember correctly, Evan is the one that comes up with the Connor Project. I'm not looking through the novel again to find it, and like I said, I don't want to watch the show again, so I'm not gonna. So if I'm remembering it wrong, correct me. But in the movie, the character Alana comes to him about the Connor Project. It's not his idea, which, if I'm remembering it wrong, then okay, I'm remembering it wrong. But if I'm not, Evan coming up with the Connor Project is one of the only good things he does in The Lie. Even though it's built on a lie, and I feel like it's done for half selfish reasons and half not, it's still a nice gesture, and it's one of the only actual nice gestures he has in the movie. So that's just me. Again, if I'm remembering it wrong, then I just sound like an asshole right now. But whatever. But Alana comes to him with the idea of the Connor Project, and our next song that we get into is the first song of the two new songs that were written just for the movie, the anonymous ones, which replaces the song "Disappear" from the show. Which I'm not sad that that song is gone, because while yes, the message of that song is true, the biggest reason why they got rid of it is because they get rid of a big plot point from the show, which is what I call Conscience Connor, and it's a manifestation of Evan's conscience that takes the form of Connor. So there's scenes where Evan talks to Connor, but it's just in his head, and I'm really glad they got rid of that, because I hate that, because it's just it's just Evan's thoughts, and it makes the show that much more manipulative and wrong. And it just, they try to use emotional scenes with him, and it doesn't work at all. So I'm really glad they got rid of it. But Alana has Evan go out to a park with her in the middle of the night. And during this conversation, she just randomly drops, she just asks Evan, so what medications do you take or whatever? Just does that. And then she tells him what medications she takes. And then he just opens up with the ones he takes. And she knows what all those medications are for. She literally points out, oh, depression, anxiety, or, whatever she says. And I'm like, no, that doesn't work. You don't do that. Someone might be that open. And with the character Alana is, I feel like she would be. But for Evan to just turn around and say it, even if he's like feeling peer pressured because she told him what she takes, that scene didn't work for me. It felt so manipulative, and it felt so like, hey, people who take these meds and have these mental illnesses get it. Our characters do, so please relate to them. Like, that's what it feels like to me. Um, and again, if I sound like an asshole, I don't apologize because it's my opinion. Um, but then we get into the anonymous ones, which is basically a song where Alana sings about how everyone is dealing with their own problems and not just Evan. And it's supposed to be like, I guess, another You Will Be Found, but the song did not work for me at all. It's not out of place. It's not like Suddenly in the Les Mis movie, because that song totally doesn't sound like Les Mis and just sounds really out of place. Like, this song does sound like a Dear Evan Hansen song, like I could believe it being in the show, but I felt nothing during the whole song. And during the song, you have a flashback to the opening scene, which you saw with Waving Through a Window, but it's through Alana's perspective. And you see how she's dealing with her own problems. And, it's a way to show, yeah, Evan's not the only one who's got these problems. And it's like, well, yeah, no duh. Um, it just didn't work for me. I don't like the song. I don't like the scene. I couldn't wait for it to be over. It was just so bleh to me. So I was thankful when it was over. But they do play the song again later, which, I mean, it's only a small tidbit, but it's like, okay, I get it. Please stop. I don't like this. Please stop. Like, I was just laying back in my seat, like, I can't wait for it to move on to a song I actually know and like. um, but after that, they tell the Murphys about the Connor Project. And, it is what it is. And Mrs. Murphy obviously likes the idea. I mean, they all like the idea eventually, but Mrs. Murphy's the one that really opens up to it and like thanks Evan for it, and Evan fully embraces it, which good on him, even if it is for selfish reasons. I'm glad that it is something that is in there. I guess I don't know. I'm so conflicted on this one, but we also get, I might be misremembering. I've only seen the movie once and I saw it Thursday night, so if I get things a little bit out of order, please forgive me. But we also get the song If I Could Tell Her, which is just as manipulative of a song as Sincerely Me, but it's a duet, quote unquote, love ballad. I hate calling it that because it's so creepy, but you have these little side scenes with Evan and his mom where they're trying to make plans. Like, they have a Taco Tuesday that they want to do, and they're like, we haven't done that in a while. And Evan's like, okay, we'll do it. And then you see a few scenes later a note from Evan's mom saying, sorry, I had to work. We'll do Taco Tuesday another night. And Evan gets a text from Zoe that says, hey, my mom made pie. Want to come over? you know. And so he's like, oh, well, I don't have anything to do, so okay. He goes over. Zoe's the only one there. And they talk for a bit, and then Zoe starts asking about Connor, and she wants to know if Connor ever talked about her, and Evan, he's like, oh yeah, totally, all the time, yeah, and he thought you were amazing, and she goes, really, my brother? And he's like, yeah, totally, and it goes into this song, If I Could Tell Her, where everything Evan's singing, he's telling Zoe that these are things that Connor said, but it's really all the things that Evan has noticed about Zoe since he's been in love with her. And it gets really creepy because it's like, oh, Connor didn't love his sister. Connor was in love with his sister. Ooh, and she buys into it totally, and like whatever. They had to make the show work, but it's so creepy. Which is, I feel really conflicted on this one because I love this song. I love both parts of Evan and Zoe. Their singing is amazing. It's a cute song, but it's so creepy because it's Evan saying that Connor said this, and it's like that's creepy, but then also with the stuff Evan says, it's like, oh, he's a creepy stalker. This is not okay. But whatever, it's not really played for laughs like Sincerely Me is. I take offense to this song, but Sincerely Me is just not a song that works for me, even if the context wasn't disgusting. And if I could tell her is a song that works for me outside of context, so it's like, I'm so conflicted on this one. But Caitlin Dever has some good bits during this song. She actually made me laugh a couple of times. Um, and they actually removed something from the show again that I really like. Um, the end of the song in the show, well, they're in Connor's bedroom, first of all, and in the movie, they're in just the living room of the house. And during the song in the show, they're sitting on Connor's bed, and at the end of the song, Evan tries to kiss Zoe, which she quickly pushes him off. And in the movie, the song ends with both of them sitting on the couch apart from each other, and it's like they're close enough that you think it might happen. It almost felt like a hey, show fans, you know what's about to happen kind of thing. So the song ends, and it feels like Evan's like moving in towards her, but then you hear the front door open and the parents are home, and it's like it's one of those things where it's like, hey, we took it out of the movie, like that's not, that creepy part's not in the movie, but it also feels like Evan totally would have done it if the Murphys hadn't walked through the door right at that point. So win some, lose some, I guess. Um, but they have a nice visit, and um, to which, I mean, I think this might be when they mentioned the Connor Project to the Murphys. I don't remember. But they set up a memorial service for Connor, to be held at the school. Anybody can attend. And it's going to be this huge thing, which anybody that knows the show knows where this is the end of Act 1 is, and big scene that the whole show tries to sell itself on. Mrs. Murphy gives Evan this tie that was bought for Connor, for him becoming a teenager, for him to be invited to parties, and she mentions that Connor was never invited to parties, it was never used, and she feels it would be appropriate for Evan to wear the tie during his speech, and that's when he first hears about him doing a speech, and he's like really apprehensive at first. He's like, no, I wasn't gonna do any, no, like I don't do that, and he's kind of pressured into it, which really kind of ruins some of the message of the scene when it comes, but whatever. I've already got so much to complain about as I go on. But he writes on note cards the story he's going to tell of him and Connor going to the orchard, which is the story that he told in For Forever. They lead up to this whole big memorial scene, and they play this comedy bit at the beginning of the scene where Evan, the principal of the school, introduces Connor's best friend, Evan Hansen, and they've got Jared sitting up in like the booth on his phone, and when he hears Evan's name, he looks up and he sees Evan walk out on stage, and he goes, oh shit, like it's supposed to be played for comedy, and it's like, well, you kind of ruined the seriousness of this scene with that, but as the scene goes on, it kind of settles back in. Um, so Evan starts his speech, and he's just reading off the note cards, and he's got social anxiety, he's got all these problems, so he's just like mumbling through the words on the cards, and he's not really telling the story. I mean, he's just fumbling around, and there's really an awkward air in the room. People start to record him on their phones to make fun of him, and he flips through, and as he's flipping, he ends up back at the beginning of the speech, so he messes up, and he ends up dropping the cards and knocking the mic stand over. It's this really awkward moment, and you just sit there in silence while people are recording him and kind of laughing at him. And you see a close-up shot on Mrs. Murphy, and she kind of nods at Evan, and he's staring at her, and he's all nervous. And he gets up, and that's when You Will Be Found starts, which is the first song I heard when I discovered this show, or decided to start listening to this show. Which, man, if you removed every single bit of context about this show from that song would work so well as a message. But it feels so genuine, but also so manipulative. And this is honestly, in the theater, me watching this movie, this is when I started sobbing uncontrollably, because that song, even context and all, it speaks to me, and I'm sure it speaks to a lot of people, and that's a big reason why they market this show with that song. And it is a beautiful song, and Evan's little speech at the beginning as people are recording him, when he starts singing, it's like that first bit of the song is so beautiful, because it's like it's so good. And in between, he mentions Connor, and it's like, oh yeah, this is all built on a lie, and so it's kind of ruined. But then you're pulled back into the song, and you see all the people spreading this video that was recorded of him with his speech, and everyone's saying they need to see their friends need to see this, and Connor should be remembered, and you will be found. You're not alone. And it's fucking speaks to me. But at the same time, it's all a lie. So why should it? And that's where the deep root of my hatred for this show is. It is using mental illness as a manipulation tactic. It is speaking to people who deal with the same problems as the people in the show, including me. I'm one of them, even to this day. And it treats mental illness and depression and anxiety and suicide and all of that as a circus. And it's just like, I love this song. I mean, I couldn't breathe in the theater because I was crying that hard. But it just hurts. Because I feel like I'm being spoken to, but I feel like I'm being made a joke at the same time. And this only gets worse as the show goes on. As for how the scene was done, they kind of show all the people recording their videos of, you need to see this, everybody on the internet should see this kind of thing. And honestly, that made me kind of giggle through my crying, because it was all so weird. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if they had thrown some kind of YouTube influencer in there as a cameo, and I'm shocked they didn't, but they didn't, so good on them, I guess. But that kind of pulled me out of the scene a bit. But the song was done well. It still sounds beautiful. I just have those problems with it, which in the end will be my problems with the entire show as we move on. But you see the Connor Project's really hitting off, and it's doing really well, and everybody at the school has left flowers and notes and all these things at Connor's locker, and it really spoke to them. And it's just like, they feel like a stand-in for the audience, because they've been manipulated just as much as we have. I know people in the theater behind me were crying because I could hear them sniffling. So, it's just one of those things. But the end of the song, we see Zoe sitting on Evan's front porch at his home, and she's kind of sniffling, and Evan comes home, and Zoe thanks him. She She tells him that he has no idea what he's given to her and her family. And it hurts to see her that hopeful and happy, knowing that by the end of the show, you know, it just, it hurts. It hurts a lot. And Caitlin Dever again played it so well that, I mean, I was sobbing, because it's just like I'm sobbing because of the current situation, and I'm sobbing because I know how it's gonna go on, and I know where she's gonna be at by the end of the show. But I mean, again, this is why I have a love-hate relationship, because I feel like it speaks to me, but at the same time, I'm being manipulated and treated as if I'm a circus act. But I have a lot more to get into as we go on, and I'm hitting the limit on my recording, so you guys got to see a little in depth of my problems with the show, and I will get in more as I go on, and I do have personal experiences to share. So I'm going to end it here, upload it, and maybe record part 4 tonight because I missed a day. I don't know. But I'll see you guys soon either way.